I won't dwell too much on the history of ECFiber. It's been kind of personally frustrating to me how slowly things have gone, but it did start about 4 or 5 years ago at town meeting when 23 towns ranging from West Windsor up to Montpelier voted to join in what's termed in Vermont an interlocal contract to create a sort of municipal entity called ECFiber, with the intention of wiring every household in that region with fiber. And our initial financing scheme was to use the public markets, which were still available pre-2008, to do a form of municipal financing called a capital lease. And it's allowable under Vermont law to, you can't use general obligation bonds for telecoms, but you can use non-recurring or non-recourse financing, such as a capital lease mechanism under which you can use the town's ability to issue tax-free notes, but they're not legally liable if there's a problem. The only recourse was for the lender to repossess the network and operate it and make the money back that way. So we were set to go, well, about September 2008, the Lehman Brothers collapsed, and the rest is history. So we weren't able to complete it in one fell swoop. We then trying to think of a nice word to say.
Dumb-diddled around,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, we skedaddled around, tried to get stimulus funding, and we're frustrated in that effort thanks to a combination of incompetence on the form of the federal government and the state government. So they gave a lot of money to detail to do a wireless canopy over Vermont, and they were shovel ready. But I guess it needed a lot of shovels. Wireless apparently. Detail had never done that. And there's still nothing. And they're still getting tower sites, so they're supposed to be up and running next year, but I don't know, I'm pretty skeptical. Yeah, you guys got a little bit. No, Vermont decided to do this wireless canopy so they could declare victory and go home. And anyway, about 2 years ago, the sort of founders, myself, Tim Melty, and one of the major vendors on the project, Ron Castle, decided, okay, let's invest a small amount of money in scale of things, a big amount of money for us, and start the pilot project in a sort of central location. It's the headquarters are in South Groveland behind Lucky's old building on exit 3 on I-89, but most of the network runs west over to Bethel and then into Barnard. That was the first 23 miles, and since we doubled about that, have 280 subscribers. The way it works, financing after the initial 23-mile loop is that contiguous neighborhoods, they don't have to be contiguous now, but I'll get to that later, decide we want fiber, and the general parameters are, our cost, including about 6 connections per mile, would run about $25,000 per mile of network. It's about $15,000 without the connections, maybe 16. And each connection is about $1,000. If you've got a very long underground connection, or you'll be paid for that essentially, the extra bit. But we'll cover the first 300 feet of aerial drop, which covers most people.
And you said Pam, assuming 6 connections per mile minimum?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're up to 7 in that first area, so we've been able to prove that the demand is there. The average linear density per mile in these uncovered areas is about 10, it could be 11, it could be 9.
And you're looking at 25,000 per mile, doing it on existing poles.
And that includes make ready and everything. We've had pretty good luck with make ready and Fairpoint. I mean, it does take 6 months, but they haven't tried to sabotage us, and we get it done. The other good thing about going in these really rural areas where there's no cables, there's less make ready because there's less stuff on the poles. It's usually just electricity and telephone. And so neighborhoods have gotten together and tried to raise, those sorts of figures. And the first one that did it was, I think Barnard did a second phase, because when you get close to people, if you're just on the main road, someone realizes, oh, I'm only a mile away, I'm only 2 miles away, then it seems possible. I'm all convinced, 5 of my neighbors
Right.
to do this. And so the important thing was to have it out there and have it available, and it sort of expands organically. We're able to hopscotch around a bit because Fairpoint has this wide area network that's available in most town centers. And you can buy a big chunk of internet from them and then get it at various points. So instead of going all the way into Norwich from Royalton, we're able to get internet access at Marion Cross School downtown and go out from there instead of. And so, wherever there's demand now within our area, we can provide the service. And eventually, we won't need that. We have our own network in Norwich, but it allows us to hopscotch around and not rely just on contiguous.
So Fairpoint's provided bandwidth for you?
Yeah, well,
initially.
the other reason, no, we actually have it from level 3.
Oh, okay.
We also have Fairpoint A to hopscotch and B just for a little bit of redundancy.
Yeah, okay.
And that's actually a major expense up front because we're buying it in such small quantities that our costs are a lot higher. Bandwidth is not a big portion of your ongoing expenses. For us, it's actually telephone. It's just as expensive. We're not making any money on telephone right now, but we're big enough now maybe you can consider buying a switch. We're looking at that probably next year. But in any case, the terms of the investment are, it's a 15-year note. You pay 7% interest and principal, except for the first year, which is sort of an important holiday because from the time you get to the investment to the time you start getting paying subscribers is about a year. So you can't afford to pay any interest in that period. And when you look at it over the course of 15 years, it amounts to about a 6% rate of return, which, I don't know, in these markets is looking pretty attractive to people, especially since, at least in Vermont, it's tax-free state and federal. That probably wouldn't be available to you guys here in New Hampshire. But what we're finding is that some people are doing it just for the investment piece of it, and they're not even requiring it to get to their house. Other people said, yes, I'll invest if you're going to get to my house. And that's sort of a contingent. And those people are, for me, go through the economics, it's 10 homes per mile, 25,000 investment. If everyone did it, it'd be a $2,500 investment per home, which sounds like a lot, but then you talk to real estate agents, and many of these people can't sell their homes at anything near the prices that they would like because the real estate agents say 60% of the people, once they hear that you don't have real internet, won't even look at it. And so you're already eliminated 60% of the market, and so you're inevitably going to get a much lower price on your home. And not everyone wants to sell their home, but that's sort of a justification for, it seems like a large amount of money, but in terms of the longevity of this infrastructure, the fiber doesn't deteriorate. The fiber will be good for 100 years. You can change the electronics at either end and upgrade the bandwidth, but this is, so 15 years is actually a fairly short-term instrument. You could probably do a longer-term instrument if it made it easier on the finances. And you might make it transferable between owners, I don't know. But
now who's responsible for maintenance of that? I would say a tree falls on it.
we hired contractors. The fiber is actually, the only time it got cut was during Hurricane Irene. And I don't know if you know the bridge over the river, the one that goes right through Bethel. Our fiber was strung about 20 feet above the bridge, but the water came up to the bridge and created a log jam there. And some log got up high enough to reach 20 feet over.
ECFiber did.
But in most places, our fiber is sheltered by the electric wires and then the telephone wires, and then our fiber's under that, and it's Kevlar reinforced, so it's much stronger than the copper. But quite often when you guys lose power, you won't lose phone service. So in those situations, you wouldn't lose fiber either.
Fiber cable pulling in the poles.
That happens when somebody holds up the trees. Yeah. So, go ahead.
In Vermont, has it been a case where once you run into a neighborhood, people now have no internet, they reassess the value of property based upon that, or that just doesn't say?
I don't know that it's happening in any really sort of formal, global way, but it's definitely something assessors are talking about because they're hearing from the real estate community and the property owners.
They ought to. But what they ought to do now is go backwards.
Yeah.